This is part 2 of my 4 recent dating horror stories. I told the first one in the last podcast, and now I'm going to hopefully be able to tell you all 3 because they're shorter stories with shorter histories right now. Actually, I should be able to because they each lasted less than a day. So, as I said, I went back online to refresh my memory about, excuse me for a second. Okay, let's start over again. This is Mary Beth Roseborough, and this is my podcast, Rediscover. So this is part 2 of dating horror stories. As I said in the last, this is Mary Beth Roseborough, and this is my podcast, Rediscover. As I said in my last podcast, I had 4 stories to tell about online dating. What should we call this? I don't know. Online dating horror stories. I told one in my last podcast, but since I went through 4 men in 4 days, I thought I would tell you about the other 3, and they'll be shorter because each one of them only lasted a day. The first one started on Saturday night, the night before Easter. And I went back online. I'd been off for a few months, but I went back online to kind of refresh my memory, as I had mentioned before, to just see if it was still the same. I think it's actually gotten worse. So what happened was I matched with somebody, and when I matched with him, I said, "Have we matched before? Because you look familiar." And he wrote back that he couldn't remember, that I looked familiar too, but and so I said, "Well, what do you think happened? Why it didn't go anywhere?" Because this happens a lot. I've matched with a lot of people that haven't gone anywhere. Or sometimes they have and I've forgotten because there's been a lot. So, I'm sorry. I keep getting text messages on my iMac. Oh, there's another one. Anyway, I matched with him, and so he's like, "Well, I don't know, but can I have your phone number?" Now, I usually don't give out my real phone number right away. These stories, interestingly, right? These stories are all like how I made an exception to the rule. So we'll go over the rule when I get to the end of these stories so that don't make exceptions. That's one of the things that I learned is don't make those exceptions. Okay. So, but I thought since he looked familiar, and since we seemed like we had matched before, I went ahead and gave my phone number. Like, yeah, okay, whatever. He probably had it before or something, who knows? So I gave him my real phone number. I guess I was just in a crazy mood that night. And so he called me right away. This was the Saturday, before Easter. And so we had this great conversation. It was very late at night, but we had this great conversation. It actually lasted 4 hours. Now, he said he was a lawyer, a personal injury lawyer that worked for an insurance company. And so that sounded kind of intriguing because at least he was well educated. And you don't find a whole lot of that down here in Florida online, but so when you do, or when I do, then I am more intrigued. So we had a really good conversation for, like I said, 4 hours. It went by so quickly. So at the end, he said, "Okay, well, when can I see you?" Now, this is an exception to the rule. Generally, when you match up with somebody online, the texting seems to go on forever. And because it's on Bumble, that's what I was using, which is where women make the first move. Sometimes men think that you need to make the first move as far as dating also. So I don't really agree with that. I don't like it, but I get kind of where they're coming from. So, but he asked me, so I was impressed because people don't usually step up that quickly. Well, I think that might have been a ploy of his. So, well, you can decide whether you think that that's true or not later. Anyway, so, so we had this great conversation. We make a date for in the future for April 12th, but he tells me that in the meantime, he can't see me except for possibly tomorrow on Easter because his son will be with him for a week. He and his ex-wife trade back and forth, he says, for a week at a time. Now, let me just tell you, this is one of the things that players will tell you. Again, that they are busy. They're often busy. They have a reason why they're busy, why they can't see you right away, why they can't see you for a whole week, or they'll say they're going out of town. There's always some excuse why they're busy and can't see you for extended periods of time. So I think, well, okay, because then he said, but I can see you tomorrow night, or if you can. I said, well, you know, I had told him that my family was coming over. But, and so I thought, he's like, oh, you know, okay, well, I'm like, he's like, well, you know, maybe. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll see if they leave early, but I don't, you know, probably not. So it was kind of like a done deal. Like, you know, like that's not really going to happen because I don't know when the kids are going to leave. And so we'll just, you know, go out on April 12th. Okay. So the next day on Easter, then he starts texting me through the day. You know, he sends me a copy of his driver's license. He's like the second guy that's ever done that. And he's just texting me and everything seems very friendly and nice. And he seems really into it. And, you know, and I'm like, well, maybe I caught myself a good one this time. No. So anyway, so finally it gets to be evening and he's like, or late afternoon. He's like, well, when am I going to be able to come see you today? And I was kind of confused because I thought we had kind of left it like that probably wasn't going to happen. So then he kind of persistently starts texting me, well, what about now? Well, when are your kids going to leave? You do understand it takes me an hour. So what, you know, how's that going to work? So then he texts me around 7 o'clock and says, okay, well, can I come up now? You know, it's getting late or something. Can I come up now? Or am I going to be able to come up soon? So I didn't see that text for almost an hour because I was out playing with the kids outside. And so I wrote back and said, well, you can come now. It's not too late for me, not for, you know, if it's okay with you. He stopped texting me. That was it. No more text. So I finally thought, well, you know, maybe he's mad because it feels like I kept putting him off. So I did date another guy who was really sensitive like that, and any little thing would make him feel like he was being rejected or something. So you have to remember that men act like big tough guys, but inside they're very sensitive and delicate. So, you know, you've heard that fragile male ego, it's a real thing. So I don't hear from him from 7 o'clock on. So I finally wrote back because I'm like, well, maybe he got his feelings hurt. So I'll write back. And I said, I'm sorry we missed each other tonight. And still no response. So now I'm like, okay, something's happening just because I know how this goes. So any other time I had just been like, oh, well, I don't know, maybe he's busy, or, you know, what's the stuff that they say? Oh, my phone died, as if people don't all have chargers. So anyway, the next morning comes and I don't hear anything from him again. So I'm like, okay, now I'm getting curious. Now let me see what's going on. So I write, hey, what's up? And good morning. Nothing. So about, I don't know, 20 minutes or so later, I wrote, oh, are you ghosting me because I didn't answer soon enough last night? I said, I hope not, because, still thank you for the conversation. And hours later, it's still nothing. Hours later, he wrote me and said, not ghosting, busy working. Yeah, this isn't going to work out. Good luck. True story. And that is not the first time that's happened. When I told this to a couple of my girlfriends, two of them said, 2 out of 3 said, well, I guess he was looking for a booty call and he didn't get it. So that didn't work out. So he just ditched. I'll never know what it was because he didn't write anything back after that. I think I asked him like, well, what would make you think it wouldn't work out? I mean, and he never answered, of course. And then here's another thing that guys do when they're up to no good. They delete themselves from the queue. You're like in Bumble or whatever, you have a page that has all the people you're having conversations with, and they will delete themselves out of that. That's a big catfishing tactic also, which we'll get to when we talk about catfish. But anyway, so you see, you can be led on by lots of conversation and a lot of yeah, you're so, so this is so interesting and I've never talked to anybody for so long. It doesn't matter. If they're out for a booty call and you don't provide what they want, then that's not gonna work. And one of my young friend that I have, she said, well, I think she thought it was because I had texted him twice in the morning without an answer. And my response to that is, first of all, two normal people, she called it blowing up his phone. I said, 2 text messages is blowing up his phone. Okay, well, if we're living in a world where 2 text messages is blowing up somebody's phone, I'm not going to deal with that world. I'll totally figure out another way to meet and communicate with people. Also, if that is how somebody is, that seems kind of immature to me, to if that were true. But I don't think it was true, because he started ghosting me the day before when I guess he felt like he was being rejected or something. I don't know. But the other thing is too, I have to consider this, is would I want somebody who's that sensitive and it doesn't talk about it or say something if that's what they're feeling? Like, no, I don't want that kind of person. I don't want some like sensitive, non-communicative, like just cut people off kind of thing. I don't want that. So once again, I was quickly shown who this person was, or what he maybe had been after but didn't get. So that was one example. The next one is, again, somebody matched with me who I had matched with before, and I asked him if he remembered me, and he said, yeah, of course, that's why he matched with me again. And so we texted a little bit back and forth, and then he called me. So I was walking at the park. So we talked the whole time I walked at the park, which was about an hour and a half. And when we got, and we had a good conversation, but he's a very opinionated and strong-willed person. He's told me things that I think he worked either in or with the Homeland Security Office here in South Florida, and kind of came across that he was, in powerful, important positions. Okay, remember that. So, so as we're talking, I always feel like, as an older woman who was brought up in the feminist movement in the 60s and 70s, and of course what's continued to happen from there, that it's, especially as an older woman, it is my job. I think actually it's the job of all older women to make way for the younger women who might be not quite as willing to call guys out on the things that they do. And I heard somebody, a man once say, not that this makes us responsible for what they do. We're not responsible for how men act. But he said one of the reasons men continue to act the way they do is because women continue to let them. So if there are women out there that are letting women get away with what I'm going to explain next, then, you know, it's kind of like enabling people. We're enabling them to continue this. If every woman put their foot down and refused to deal with men who act the way these past two men have acted, like I told you, if they, you know, if I would have paid attention to those red flags, I would have ended those things sooner. But if young women are thinking that they might have, you know, time is running out, there might not be anybody else, they're feeling a little desperate, or a little wondering if they're going to be able to have a family, or they just haven't learned to stand up to men, or they're willing to accept what they do, then, you know, or they feel trapped because, you know, they have children. That's how I felt. I took a lot of things I should not have taken because I had, you know, a family to consider. But I think it's our job as older women who really have nothing left to lose. What do we have to lose if we tell these guys exactly what we think they're doing, and that we're not going to put up with that, and we call them out on their behavior? I think it's our job to do that for those women who haven't learned to, or are too afraid to, or whatever it is. It's our job to school these guys. So hopefully, eventually, women will all start doing this, and we can expect and get better, more respectful behavior. So what happened was, so as I was talking to this man on the phone, who, as I said, I had known before, and I had told him I was going to stop dating for a while because I just wasn't happy doing that. And he had barely been calling me. I hadn't talked to him in weeks when I did that. I just didn't want to ghost him and just, you know, and be like, I'm out, just don't call. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to explain to him what I was doing. So he remembered that, though, and wasn't too happy about it, although at the time he acted like he didn't care. So I don't know what the big deal was. But as we were talking, he's very opinionated, and you know, gives lots of opinions, and will tell me things and tell me like it is. Well, I'm too old for that stuff. So I tell him what I think and how it is. And if I disagree with him, I disagree with him. I'm not one of those people who at this point in my life will just be like, oh, okay, yeah, when I don't agree with that and think that somebody's saying something completely wrong. One thing he said to me was that women are cutthroat. That's what he said. I was like, after the experiences that I've had, you're going to tell me that women are cutthroat? He said, yeah, because when they're, you know, done with you, they're just done with you, just like you told me before. And I'm like, you have no idea what I meant when I said, when I'm done, I'm done. I said, you have no idea how long it has taken me in the past to get to that point. Now he's right. Now I'm ruthless. I'm what the therapist calls, I fire fast. That's what he said. When you start seeing those red flags, when you start feeling confused, when you start feeling uncomfortable and it's causing you anxiety, time to go, time to go. Nobody needs that in their life. So, but cutthroat is not exactly the way I would describe myself over the last couple of years of dating. I think I put up with way too much, which is good because it schooled me so that now I can help other women deal with this online stuff. And so anyway, after we got off the phone, I told him, I texted him and said, hey, that was really fun. Thank you for keeping me company on my walk. I'll be walking again on Wednesday at that same park if you're interested in joining me. He wrote me back, yes, thank you. That was a nice conversation. I'll think about Wednesday. When I read that, I thought, oh no, you did not just say, I think he actually said something about, I'll consider Wednesday. It was not, I'll think about Wednesday. It was even something more businesslike. And anyway, so I texted him back and I said, well, what does that mean? And is this COVID concerns related, or is this like a personal thing between us? Is that what is the concern? And he wrote back, the man who supposedly held high positions and worked with Homeland Security and et cetera, said, what? I don't know what you mean. So I texted back, I mean, what is the reason for your hesitation in saying whether you're going to come with me or not? And he said, oh, Wednesday's not good for me. And I said, wait a second. First, you said you were going to consider it. Now you're telling me it's not good for you as if you have an appointment. Those things don't match. And he said, what did he say? I can't remember exactly what the next thing he said was. But I guess after I said that, then he said, let's not do this. And then he said, and then he said, okay, let's not do this. And then he said the thing that will kill any relationship or any getting to know you or anything with any man. If they ever say this to me, then I am done with them. He said, you're creating drama over a potential answer. Don't ever tell me that I'm creating drama. And I wrote back and said, because I'm an older woman who needs to fight for women's, to be treated with respect and not put up with this kind of crap. I said, only because you're not being straightforward. And I said, since you like to generalize about women, since he had called women cutthroat, I said, let me generalize about men for a minute. Men are secretive and dishonest, and they pull this kind of stuff. And when women call them out on it, when women call them on it, then they say that a woman is creating drama without ever taking responsibility for what they did. I said, you don't ever have to worry about me creating any more drama in your life. I want someone who's honest and straightforward. See ya. And then I blocked him and deleted his contact. So that's the kind of thing I mean. Men will be secretive. They won't tell you the truth. They try to slightly skew the story, first telling me he would consider Wednesday, then telling me Wednesday's not a good day for him. He was just trying to skirt the issue. He didn't want to tell me whatever it was. He could have told me, well, you know, you broke up with me last time. I'm not sure I want to get involved again. Well, then he shouldn't have matched with me. He might be thinking that I'm a little too opinionated for his liking and I don't agree with him enough. That's fine. I am willing to hear whatever they say, but they never say it. And then when we call them on it, then they say, you're creating drama. So just let me point out that men will oftentimes in their profiles say, I don't want any drama. Well, what that translation is I want to do whatever I want to do, and I don't want you to say anything about it. That's what the translation is. I don't do drama. So if you see that, you need to swipe left. You need to run because it will not get any better. It will only get worse. Okay, so that's guy number 3. One day. Okay, guy number 4. This one is the best. Somebody matched with me, or they came up on my like they were interested in me. They had swiped right on me, and so I knew I'd seen this guy before. So I went ahead and matched with him because I'm always curious, you know, about what is this that that we've already been through. So I said to him, whatever, I can't remember his name. I said, and this was just 2 days ago. They're all blurred into one. I said, you know that we've matched before. Oh, I do remember his name. That we've matched before. And he said, yeah. And I said, well, what happened? He said, well, I don't know, but let's start fresh. Okay. And then again, he asked for my number, but I knew that I had matched with him before. So I went ahead and gave it to him too. Like, I don't care. It's easy to find my phone number. You can find anybody's phone number online. Anyway, so I gave him my phone number and I'm like, but first I said, wait a minute, were you the one that sent me that nasty picture a couple of years ago? It's like, no. And I'm not sure it was him, but it might have been. And as the time this thing went on, I became a little more suspicious. So he said no. So I'm like, okay. So anyway, now he's on alert. Don't send me any dirty pictures. I don't want any dick pics. I don't want any dirty pictures of anything else. I don't want anything. It's gross. So we had this great conversation. He's like, oh, you know, when can I see you? I can come up there tonight or tomorrow. And I'm like, I can't do that. I'm busy Monday and Tuesday, but Wednesday, which is today, right? But Wednesday, I can do Wednesday. Oh, okay. All right, Wednesday. So then he's all like, blah, blah, blah. He's all teasing me and back and forth. And he asked me like, I don't know what religion I belong to. And he's just talking about all this, you know, stuff on that's very flirty. It goes on for like 2 hours and he's flirting with me and trying to be cute and all this stuff. Okay. So then finally he said, well, when do you want to see me? And I said, I told you Wednesday is when I could do it. And he said, well, what time? And I said, I'm free after 2 o'clock on Wednesday. And he said, we can do after 2 o'clock. So I wrote him back and I said, okay, well, what time specifically do you want to meet and what do you want to do? I have never heard from him since. Yeah, I've never heard from him. And he wiped our conversation off of our Bumble queue again. So the moral of this one story is that there are guys that will engage with you just to see how far they can take it. I think they're just trying to feed their egos and just see how far they can, get. I suppose if I had told him I could have met him Monday, that he probably would have stopped texting me at that point too. But yeah, so at any rate, they just play around like that. They're just playing around. They're, probably have girlfriends or they're married or whatever. And they're just playing around to see if a woman that they think is interesting will actually go out with them. And then they've gotten their hit. They've gotten their thrills. And so and this is not the first time, honestly, that this has happened. This has happened to me before. I actually talked to one guy one time that said he was thinking about going to the pool. I'm like, okay. And he's like, do you have a swimsuit? I'm like, yeah, of course I have a swimming suit. And he said, oh, okay, well, and we kind of like went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, but he never actually said, well, come on over. I'll call your name in at the gate. I live around a lot of gated communities. It was the most bizarre thing. Like he just wanted to keep me engaged for, I don't know, attention, but never really asked me to come over to his pool and go swimming with him. He just kind of asked all these roundabout questions. Finally, he was the first person actually I blocked and deleted. I was so mad. What are you doing? Just using women just to get your jollies, and then just letting it go. Just let it. And I can't tell you how many times, which is why I said at the beginning that I blocked and deleted contacts, because there are guys like that will just show up, and they'll text you or call you or something, and they'll be like, oh, I've been thinking about you. And then you're like, oh, and you're flattered. You think that's great. Don't think that's great. That's not great. That just means they're bored, their girlfriend's out of town or whatever, and they found your phone number in their contacts, and they thought, well, I'll call her and see what's up, and see if I can get some attention, and entertain himself for a little while. You're just being used when they do that. And I only know that because I fell for that a few times. And with this last guy, there weren't too many red flags, except that he came on kind of strong. So, but I just thought that was because we had matched before that he was willing to get together so quickly. But no, I was wrong. If they come on too strong, run away. And just know that if this happens to you, that some guy leads you on, you're having a great conversation, you talk to somebody for 4 hours, and they decide, no, this isn't gonna work. Yeah, this isn't gonna work. Good luck. Just be happy that Heavenly Father took them out of your life right away before they caused you any grief or pain. Because if you got involved with someone like that, can you imagine how you would feel? You would feel the way I felt about Mr. Perfect Married Guy. You would be confused, you'd be frustrated, you'd be aggravated, you wouldn't know what was going on, why, what you could rely on, who you could trust. So when this kind of weird stuff happens, when they suddenly disappear from your life, just know this is part of online dating. Unfortunately, this is just part of the way it goes. And don't ever take it personally. Don't be offended. Just know that you can just cross another one off your list, that you've been protected. I've heard it said, rejection is protection. Everything is gonna be okay. So those are my stories. I hope they were helpful to you if you've been confused about how you're treated when you've gone online and just couldn't understand how people can be that way. Unfortunately, you'll begin to understand really quickly that people can be that way, that men can be that way. They say that women can too. Of course, I don't know about that, but I'm willing to believe it. It's unfortunate for both sides. So that's one reason why I don't do online dating anymore. I can't ever say that I met anybody who really was in it for anything other than just a quick hit, a quick date, or they were looking for a booty call. And we're not interested in any of that. If you are, this is the wrong podcast for you. But if you're not, and you want me to help you learn some more about online dating, if you're willing to try to navigate that, you're going to have to develop a thick skin and definitely never take it personally. I'll see you again soon. This is Mary Beth Roseborough, and this is my podcast, Rediscover.